Judge Marcus Holloway, a respected Philadelphia judge, found himself in a humiliating and familiar position one evening, face down on the concrete, his hands cuffed behind his back by Officers Brennan and Reynolds. He was in his casual clothes, having just visited his mother in the hospital after her heart surgery. The officers had stopped him while he was pumping gas at a station in a predominantly white suburb, claiming he matched the vague description of a suspect in a robbery: black male, medium build, hood up. Despite Marcus calmly identifying himself as a judge and trying to retrieve his judicial ID, the officers became aggressive. Brennan slammed Marcus against his BMW and they handcuffed him, shouting, "Stop resisting," even though he was not. A young woman at a nearby pump recorded the incident, and the gas station manager, Mr. Patel, a regular customer who knew Marcus, tried to intervene, but he was dismissed. Pushed into the back of the patrol car like a common criminal, Marcus felt his dignity and rights slipping away. On the short ride to the Abington Township police station, the officers joked about people claiming to be important. Inside, the booking process was a systematic dehumanization. Marcus was pushed forward as a gas station loiterer, and the sergeant scoffed at his claim of being a judge. He was forced to empty his pockets even after he pointed out he was handcuffed. When he placed his belongings on the counter, the sergeant ignored his judicial ID. The humiliation was interrupted when a young black officer named Dowell Jackson recognized him. "Judge Holloway," he asked, his voice uncertain. The room fell silent. Jackson's confirmation of Marcus's identity immediately changed the atmosphere. Captain William Preston, the police captain, rushed in, offering apologies for what he called a terrible misunderstanding. Marcus, however, insisted on following proper procedure and declined any special treatment, including a ride from the captain. He called his colleague, Judge Diane Chin, aware that the video of his arrest was already going viral. As he watched the department scramble to protect itself, Marcus knew this incident was not a simple misunderstanding, but an opportunity to confront a system that had failed him and countless others. Back at home, Marcus was met by his family, who had already seen the viral video of his arrest. His wife, Vanessa, a lawyer herself, was ready to file a civil rights suit and seek emergency injunctive relief. But Marcus had a different idea. He turned to his children, Jamal and Zora, who were reciting the rules they had been taught for interacting with police. Keep your hands visible, don't make sudden movements, say yes sir, no sir. He told them he had followed all the rules, and it didn't matter. "They didn't see you as a judge," Zora said. "They just saw a black man." Marcus knew his experience was a profound lesson in the reality faced by many people without his position and connections. He decided to use his authority, but not in the way his wife expected. When Chief Justice Harriman called, offering to reassign his cases so he could take time off, Marcus insisted on keeping his schedule, especially the next day's docket. After the call, Marcus researched judicial ethics and precedent, looking for a way to use his position to bring about change. He found a case on the docket for the very next day, a police misconduct hearing involving officers from the same precinct that had just arrested him. The judge scheduled to hear the case, Judge Sanderson, had conveniently called in sick. Marcus, next in the rotation, decided to take the case. He knew the police union would challenge it, claiming a conflict of interest, but he was prepared. He examined his own body in the mirror, noting the bruises from his arrest, and questioned whether he had become too removed from the reality of the people who appeared in his courtroom. As he put on his judicial robe the next morning, he felt its weight differently. This was his opportunity to confront systemic racism from the bench. The following morning, Marcus entered the courtroom through the private judge's entrance. The courthouse was buzzing with whispers, and his colleague, Judge Diane Chin, closed the door to his chambers to express her concern. She knew he was taking on the police misconduct hearing and, like his wife, questioned the ethics of it. Marcus was firm in his decision. He and Chin both knew that police misconduct cases rarely resulted in meaningful disciplinary action. He explained that sometimes justice required walking a fine line. As he prepared for the hearing, Marcus learned that the officers named in the complaint were none other than Thomas Brennan and Kyle Reynolds, the very men who had arrested him. He reviewed the case files and saw the predictable pattern. The internal affairs investigation had cleared the officers of wrongdoing, despite witness statements to the contrary, and their personnel file showed a history of dismissed complaints. The district attorney, Sandra Whitman, also expressed concern about his impartiality, but Marcus refused to recuse himself. He argued that his personal experience gave him relevant insight into departmental practices, and that he was fully capable of separating his personal experience from the facts of the case. When he entered the courtroom, a crowd of reporters, activists, and uniformed officers were gathered. And as he ascended to the bench, he watched as Brennan and Reynolds recognized him, their confident demeanor from the previous night replaced with panic. Marcus calmly addressed the court, acknowledging his personal encounter with the officers. The union attorney immediately moved for his recusal, but Marcus denied the motion, stating that his experience did not disqualify him. He explained that justice is meant to be blind, but that blindness refers to impartiality, not ignorance. With that, he put the entire system on trial. The hearing for Antoine Johnson's complaint began. Johnson testified about being pulled over for a supposedly broken taillight, then being pushed against his car and handcuffed after questioning the officer's actions. He insisted he wasn't resisting, a claim supported by a cell phone video from a witness which directly contradicted the officer's report. The footage showed Johnson being compliant, but it conveniently malfunctioned just as he was being handcuffed. Two other black men testified, describing nearly identical scenarios with the same officers. Brennan and Reynolds grew increasingly uncomfortable as the evidence mounted. The situation became even more dramatic when Mr. Patel, the gas station manager from the night of Marcus's arrest, appeared. He had checked his security footage from the night of Johnson's arrest and found video showing Brennan and Reynolds at the gas station an hour before they stopped Johnson. The video recorded the officers casually discussing their plan to meet their monthly stop quota. Reynolds was heard saying, "Let's check the south side of town, always good for a few stops there." The footage proved a clear pattern of targeted harassment in predominantly minority neighborhoods. The officers' union attorney, Maxwell Gordon, had his defense completely undermined. The officers, in a desperate attempt to shift the blame, called Captain Preston to testify, hoping to make this a matter of departmental policy rather than individual misconduct. This was exactly what Marcus had been hoping for. Preston's testimony about performance metrics and proactive policing confirmed the existence of a system that rewarded officers for making stops and arrests. The case was no longer just about two officers. It was about the entire department. As the hearing continued, the officers' testimonies began to unravel. Brennan and Reynolds contradicted each other on key details, and their stories were consistently undermined by the evidence, including the body camera footage and the gas station video. Under questioning from Marcus, Brennan's justifications for his actions, a broken taillight and Johnson's alleged belligerence, fell completely apart. The case took another dramatic turn when Officer Dowell Jackson, the young black officer who had recognized Marcus at the station, was called to the stand. Nervous but resolute, Jackson exposed the unofficial training practices within the department. He testified that officers were taught to be more vigilant in high-crime areas, which were defined as predominantly minority neighborhoods. He revealed that new officers were told that a black man driving a nice car in a white neighborhood was suspicious, and that phrases like furtive movements were code words used to justify stops without a valid reason. Jackson's testimony was further corroborated by his account of overhearing Brennan and Reynolds refer to Marcus as a trophy catch, and Captain Preston's subsequent instruction to get our story straight. The most significant break in the thin blue line came when Reynolds, visibly struggling with his conscience, requested a private meeting with Marcus and their attorneys. In the privacy of Marcus's chambers, Reynolds confessed that the department was trained to use code words to justify stops, and that he and Brennan had no real reason to stop Marcus, other than the fact that he was black at a gas station in a white neighborhood. He admitted that the system rewarded officers for aggressive policing in minority neighborhoods.